build on it. Damn.
She looks sad.
So she looks sad. All right, build some more. Let's go to line out. Tracking line out. Absolutely. She's crying because Michael Brown is dead. Does anybody have anything else to say about that? What do we know about that? Malik, we're tracking Malik. Absolutely. And why is she miserable? What happened? Absolutely. So her son was shot. And so let's move to our second question. What do we know about Michael Brown? Let's go to Randall. Everybody's tracking Randall.
Michael Brown shot by police when he had his hand up and he was down.
Absolutely. So Michael Brown was shot by the police and he had his hands up. Build on it, Dayon. Tracking.
I will build on what he said. It's like he surrendered.
Yeah, so he surrendered, right? And what did the police do anyway? Killed him, right? So what else do we know about Michael Brown? How old was he? Does anybody know how old Michael Brown was? Let's go to Joe. We're tracking. So 17, 18. And what else do we know about him, Dayon? Where was he going to go?
College.
So he was going to go to college, right? Does it actually matter whether he was going to go to college or not? No, it doesn't matter, right? Do the police have a right to shoot you?
No, if you put your hands up.
Right. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Does anybody know anything else about Michael Brown before we move to our next question? All right, let's go to Tyler, tracking.
Let's go.
Absolutely. And what did that end up leading to? So he got shot. What else, Antonio? We're going to go over here. Tracking.
Wearing shirts saying don't shoot.
Absolutely. Right? So the hands up, don't shoot. The Black Lives Matter movement. All right, let's go to Randall. Yeah, what's your question? So did they with Michael Brown? Does anybody know?
No.
Dayon.
Just one.
No, they didn't, right? They didn't get indicted. So they might have lost their jobs, which is good, because they should have lost their jobs for what they did. But did they actually end up going to jail?
No.
No, they didn't. All right, Andre, we're going to track Andre. So we have the right to be free, right? We have the right to live, to pursue happiness. Does it seem like that is being carried out equally? Thinking about what we talked about last week with Ruby Bridges, and then thinking about what's happening in the news today, do we think that it's equal right now? Raise your hand if you have something to say about that. Jalen, tracking. Nice and loud. Louder, baby. I can't hear you. You got it.
And what about Breeze had Collins, what did Rome have?
Yeah.
Archie.
Can you help us out, line up?
So you're gonna have beautiful.
Help us out. We're gonna go. So is it being carried out equally?
No.
No. What's going on?
More people are getting killed.
So I'm going to actually ask you this question. Do we actually think more people are being murdered, or what's changing? Raise your hand if you have an idea about what's changing. Andre. Oppression. Absolutely, right? So how is what happened to Michael Brown an example of oppression? Randall.
The police officer using the power over Michael Brown, and then they took advantage of him and started shooting him.
Absolutely. And do we have other examples? So let's go to question 3. What are some other examples on the news or in your own lives of oppression? Or we're gonna go to Antonio. We're tracking. So yeah, Chris Rock actually has an Instagram. He has an Instagram that it's just of him getting pulled over by the police. He takes a selfie every time that he's pulled over by the police, right? So how is that an example of oppression? How is that an example of oppression? Joe. Absolutely. And do we think that, why do we think it is that Chris Rock is being pulled over? Raise your hand if you have an idea about why that is. Lionel, tracking.
That is because he's a black person and he keeps getting pulled over by the police because of his race.
Because of his race. So they're profiling him. Have you heard that word profiling before? So profiling is when somebody treats you differently because they've been told to treat you differently. It's part of systematic racism, which we talked about a little bit before. So let's connect this. Let's connect oppression to what we were talking about with Ruby Bridges. Do we see a big change?
Besides this,
Do we have okay, Dan, run with it. Is there a big change? Is it much different than it was with Ruby Bridges? How is it not different?
think about the characteristics of a religious person. Are they good or bad?
Absolutely. Racism and sexism is still everywhere. We can see that with Michael Brown. Are there any other really big examples that are in your brain right now about this before we move on? Joe, tracking. So what about earlier in the year? Does anybody remember when Mr. Kusha did that lesson and he put up the pictures?
What else? Oh, yeah.
So let's think about that for a second.
You're going to see slavery versus equality.
So how are people presented in the news when they get shot by the police? So let's think about that question for a second. I see Joe's hand right away up. How are they presented, Joe? Absolutely. Right? So because the police officers have the power, they're able to oppress the people. They're able to present the people in a certain way that makes the rest of the United States, maybe the people who aren't treated with this racism or being discriminated against, they don't actually see it as a problem. Does that make sense, Antonio? So how do the majority of Americans, the people who don't see this police brutality, feel about the police? How do they feel about the police? Line out.